Great. Okay. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the Hamlet of Beavercreek board meeting, October 21st of 2021. It is 7 p.m. that we are calling the meeting to order, and this meeting is being conducted via Zoom. Jessica, do we have any participants out there? Oops.
Oh,
yes.
We have two.
Oh, good. There's Elizabeth Gracer Lindsay and Laura Cox. Wonderful. Okay. So I want to start this meeting out by going away, to be quite honest. Our very first application is an application that will be coming before the Planning Commission, and being on the Planning Commission, I can certainly hear facts about any application. What I can't hear until I sit on the commission are any concerns or things in favor, any opinions in a sense. So Bill Merchant, as vice chair, will be running this section of the meeting and discussing this with you. What I have requested is after the board has had their discussion about it, and this isn't the time, of course, to take any votes or anything, it's just getting ready for next week. Then Jessica will text me and I'll come back on. So if if you want, and that's up to you, Bill, of course, about bringing Elizabeth and Laura on if they want to bring on as participants or just do raising hand or whatever. So, and I will cover that since we are via Zoom. If you do have any comments or questions, please use the raise hand feature, and then we'll be able to, oh, great, there's Mark, great. And we have guests. So you know what, I'm gonna do introductions really quickly. Bill Merchant, Vice Chair, if you'll raise your hand. Joe Matteo, Director at Large. Excuse me, just lost my voice. Cheryl Buchert, she is a treasurer. Jessica Cernak is our secretary and corresponding secretary. Mark Hilliard is currently a citizen and hopefully to be a board member next week. Kenny Cernak, who cannot raise his hand, is a director at large, and he's got his little hand raised. That was cute. And then Jack Hipp, also director at large. And he just raised his hand, so perfect. I know that was pretty clever. All right, guys, I'm bowing out, and Jessica, just let me know when to come back in. Thank you. Okay, bye, guys.
So as you heard, Tammy can't hear our discussion or anything about this until it goes before her at the Planning Commission. So I want to just start the thing off. This is Z0208-21-CP. The applicant is Mission Teens Incorporated, Northwest Bible Training Center. You've seen the application, and I put it up on the website, not with all of my handwriting on it, but I've got lots of notes here, and it's an interesting thing. This is actually for a limited use overlay, and an overlay is a special kind of thing that gets put on that does not affect the underlying comp plan or the underlying zoning. It's like the next thing that we're going to be hearing, which is the historic overlay. They want to remove the historic overlay. An overlay is in addition to the comp plan and current zoning. So what they're actually asking for is to have an overlay to allow them to have a using an existing residence and accessory building in addition to recovery farm. One of the things I learned from the planner is that this is in response to a sort of a code enforcement issue. They came before the planner actually and said, oh yeah, they came before the planner for an electrical permit because they wanted to upgrade the barn so they would have electricity in the barn so they could house people in there and stuff like that. And when the planner heard about that, they said, oh, well, you can't really do that because that's not permitted in EFU. And so to get around their zoning violation, if you will, they are making this effort to get a limited use overlay on the current EFU, and it's the current EFU zoning, and the comp plan designates it as EFU. So that's all that I've really got to say about this. it's really interesting. The planner is going to try to get me more information about what a limited use overlay really means, so that by our meeting next week, I will have information about what that means. But as she explained it to me, she's never done one of these before, but she explained it to me that other counties have used this kind of an overlay procedure. It would not change the underlying zoning. It would not change the underlying comp plan. So it wouldn't be like, changing it from, EFU to RA5 or RF5 or something like that. It would leave the zoning as it is. It would simply permit them to do what they want to do in this property, and it is property specific. It would not set a precedent in terms of changing it anyplace else. Anybody else who wanted to do something similar would have to do the same steps that they're going through. So Kenny has his hand raised. Yes, Kenny.
So that would be significant for things that do tests about neighboring properties, like for rezoning, things where if a certain percentage of places within a certain range have a certain zoning, because this isn't changing that, those tests for other properties in the area wouldn't be impacted, correct?
I believe you're right. I am
Okay.
not sure, because I'm not really sure what the limited use overlay really means, but that's a great question to find out about. And I will try to find out about that by.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what reasons there would be for doing this instead of a zone change. And that was the only thing that came to mind.
Well, I think the main thing to do, the main reason they don't want to do a real comp plan zone change is it would be very difficult to do that, because it is EFU. And EFU as resource land is really well protected. And it would be very difficult for them to do any kind of zone change that would move this out of EFU. So I think that's why they're going for the overlay. This is just my opinion. I have no basis in fact. And I also just want to put out there that if Elizabeth or Laura want to make a comment, just raise your hand and we can bring you into this discussion a little bit. But as Tammy said, this is not really the discussion. This is mostly for the board to have a discussion so that we'll be prepared for next week. So, but if you have something that you'd really like to comment, please do raise your hand and we can bring you in. But Jack has his hand up. I think I saw Jack first.
Yeah, my question is, are they currently having teen residents on the site? And if they are they violating any kind of a code by doing it without having approval?
Yes, the answer is yes. They went ahead and did this thing. In fact, they met with us. I remember meeting them in person at the Grange maybe a couple of years ago, where they were talking about wanting to do this. And we sort of cautioned them at the time that, you can't really do that in the current zoning that you're in. So, you're going to have to figure out something else to do. Well, they went ahead and did that, did have a residential treatment center, put it together, did that. And when they went to get the electrical permit to upgrade the barn, that's when planners found out about it. And because the planners were actually being asked to approve a zone violation, they said, no, we can't do that. So it's now a code enforcement issue, but it's not. And this attempt of a limited use overlay is an attempt to get around that zoning violation.
Well, my concern is if they just, they went ahead and wanted to get electricity put in, but you have to do a lot more than just electricity to make a place livable by any standard.
Right.
And my concern would be, what have they done to make this really a livable situation rather than 26 people in bunk beds in a barn?
Yeah.
And
I have no idea about that. They did say that they were very willing to talk to the Hamlet. And so if the board wants to take a field trip up to see them and see what's going on, I'm sure that could be arranged over the next few days. But personally, I don't know what they're doing there, really.
Joe, what's next? and then we have an attendee.
Okay, Joe?
So I've got a couple comments in regards to reading the whole package. It does talk about they're making other adjustments to that barn to make the thing livable. Now I remember our meeting, it was right at the beginning of COVID, if I remember right. And you're right, it was in the Grange. We had a quick meeting. But my other question is in regards to their taxes. They're claiming they're a church, but nobody going to church. How does that play? Are they really allowed to call themselves a church, even though they don't have any churchgoers? It's not open like a normal church, because they're going to get away with paying any property taxes according to the way the package is written.
I do believe when they met with us that they talked about it would be a significant amount of like Bible study and things like that. So there is definitely a religious aspect to this treatment that they're planning.
Yeah, but that's a very good question, Joe. And, you know, churches get a special place in land use planning. They can do whatever the hell they want. Pardon me, but that's exactly what happens. So churches can do that, but they are not in this, as far as I saw in this application, they're not forming a church. Because if they were forming a church, then they could do pretty much what they wanted to do, or they could get close to doing pretty much what they wanted to do. And it doesn't look like they're actually forming a church. It's really a treatment center is what they're asking to do. So I don't know, very good questions, and we can I'll try to get some answers from the planner about that.
Yeah, they're claiming though to be a church with getting the paying no property taxes, because it talked flat out about that
Uh-huh.
in that whole package. I read all those pages.
Yep, a lot of pages. Elizabeth, you have your hand up. Go ahead and talk to us.
Okay, I didn't actually look at the packet, but I did have a couple questions and a couple comments. I was just thinking that what they're doing might not be officially allowed in any zone. I'm not positive of that. That was just a guess. So for them to operate that facility anywhere would require some sort of a special process. It just seems like, I don't know if anyone knows for sure.
I don't know, but that's a very good observation, and I think that's probably why they're going for this limited use overlay to try to get that use as an overlay in the underlying zoning.
Is limited use the name of the overlay?
Yes, limited use overlay. And I've been trying to do some research. I went to the Department of Land Conservation and Development and looked for limited use overlay and found a couple of references in Marion County, but not in Clackamas County. And when I talked to Melissa Ahrens, who's the planner on this, she has never done a limited use overlay either. She sort of has heard about them, but she doesn't really know about them. And she's doing a lot of studying to find out what that really means and what they can do and can't do under that. But I think that the Joe's question about property tax and is this a church has a significant bearing perhaps on what a limited use overlay would mean. So
Do they have a bit of farm operation going on there?
I have no idea.
Okay, it would be interesting if they do invite you to visit. I am not familiar with this group, but I did have a few encounters with some groups that might be similar or might not be similar. There's a group called Transitional Youth in the Portland area that helps young men and young women at different facilities to transition out of homelessness. They have to be drug-free when they go there. I donated some goats to both the men and women facility. I do goats, in case you don't know. So I did see them. That one seemed quite good. I don't know if this one's good or not. I don't know. My daughter was invited to participate with a veterans facility like this one to help veterans get on their feet. So That one was down south somewhere. She didn't end up doing it, but she heard about it.
Okay,
That's all I have to say.
well, I'll certainly find out more about the farm operations that they may or may not have there too. Well, thank you. And Kenny has his hand up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought when they talked with us before that they mentioned that there would be, among other things, some farm activity. I don't know how much. I don't know how big the property is. 7.7 acres, it says. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that gets weird because I know farms are allowed to have like farm residents for workers, right? So
that's a different kind of use altogether.
okay, but I mean, if it was a commercial farm, they could have residents for their employees, right? Farm
Right.
workers, because I've had to deal with tax credits for that. But so I guess if they are doing that, it would seem at least farmish to me, and I'd have a lot less issue with it. But I don't know. Is anybody else interested in going out there maybe on like Sunday or something if they're available?
I won't be here. I won't be back until Monday.
I would be interested.
So we have a couple of people interested. Okay, I'll put it together a little doodle poll and get in touch with the people there to see when we can go out. I mean, they might have prayers all day Sunday for all I know. So
Yeah.
you know, who knows? So I'll get in touch with them to see when they're available and put a doodle poll out to let you guys know when it might be possible for us to go out there.
Thank you.
And
The write-up does talk about, there is some farming going on with the remainder of the land. It's garden type stuff, and they're using it to feed the people, and then whatever's left over, they're donating to other things out there, other food pantries or whatnot. The tax issue, yes, with farming, you do get tax write-off, or you like our place is under farm deferral. What they're trying to do is pay zero taxes on their house on everything. We still pay quite a bit of taxes because of the house and the property, but we just don't pay as much. So they're not claiming to be a farm. They're claiming to be a church.
right. And I'll find out more about that from the planner so that at our meeting next week, I'll have those answers for you. Okay, is there anything more to discuss about this before we let Tammy come back and run the rest of the meeting?
Mark has us up.
Oh, sorry, I saw Mark. I didn't see you there.
The whole package of electrical permit, yes, is looking at the amount of personnel that would be in and out of there on a regular basis. So sanitation, we touched on it just slightly with agriculture, but there are certain criteria that are required for so many people, housing, and all the things that go with that, as well as has there been any kind of look at for that one-way in, one-way out road?
Yeah.
As far as the transportation capacity or does it need to be upgraded? And the overhead
package
power
does-
that's in there.
The package does address the transportation, where they're saying there's not going to be very many people. It also addresses the septic system, where they're going to have to completely rebuild it.
Both of those make sense to me, given that it's like a residential drug rehab thing. I wouldn't imagine they want people going in and out much.
And are they attached to any particular agency or entity like Boys and Girls Club or something like that, teen, that would also be character reference?
I don't remember them mentioning anything like that when they talked with us. I think it's just the Northwest Bible Training Center that they are. What exactly does it take to be a church for the tax purposes and that stuff? Do you guys know?
No idea.
Okay, so maybe they do meet the requirement depending on whatever it is.
Well, I will ask the planner that question specifically about being a church.
Okay. That's the end of my questions, at least.
Okay. Anything else? then Jessica, will you please tell our fearless leader to come back and join us? So the rain's been pretty interesting. It was 70 degrees this afternoon before the rain started. I couldn't believe it. I had a winter jacket on because earlier it was cold, and 70 degrees was crazy.
I heard there's supposed to be a storm coming this weekend.
Oh yeah, a lot of storm. And there she is. Hi, Tammy. We're finished with the first thing on the agenda.
Wonderful. Good, good, good. Thank you all.
We didn't solve all the world's problems, though.
Oh, dang. But I haven't ever felt more wanted. A nice tech that says, come back. Wonderful. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Bill, and everybody for taking care of that. All right. Let's launch into the next application, which actually I just emailed you all today. That is that Z4 or 0439-21 from Eno and Danielle Mann. This is the property between Wilson Road and Henry C. It's on the same side, which would be the east side of Beavercreek. And so it's at 20750 South Beavercreek Road, Oregon City. It's zoned RRFF5, 56.72 acres. And it's requesting a removal of a historic overlay. So if you at any time to just quickly peruse that application online, it has a really old 1800s home and the water tower, and there's a little outbuilding in the back. And they obviously have a historic overlay on it. And then I have talked with a planner on this already, primarily because we've had citizens contacting the board asking about it. Specifically, very specifically, Elizabeth was one that was asking, had we received the application on it? So I did talk with the planner, and basically this is kind of the first step, because if the historic overlay board deems it no longer a historic whatever monument or whatever, then that application would be approved to remove the historic overlay. Then the next process, and this is where it gets really difficult for the county. The first step that the applicant wants to do is to change the zoning from 5 acre to 2 acre, which is called RA2. And unfortunately, to do a zone change, there's a whole bunch of things that are required for that are also required for a subdivision application. But they don't want to do it all at once because a subdivision application is huge and expensive. So they want to make sure they can get the zone change first before they even go down the road of a subdivision there. That all being said, that's where the county's struggling, because they're trying to, if the zone change isn't going to happen, the applicant doesn't want to throw tens and tens of thousands of dollars at this. So, because there's a lot that has to go into it, but that's where this is right now. So the only thing that we can do at this moment is provide any comment on whether or not this should or should not remain with a historic overlay. I don't know if you've taken the time, but I have, just to kind of slow way down with my truck, and the buildings are decrepit. They're literally falling down. So Bill.
A couple of years ago, they were not decrepit. A couple of years ago, they were in pretty good shape, but since then, I think they have been encouraged to be decrepit, if you will. Stuff just started falling off of the tower, and it was like, is this normal? It hasn't happened like this before, but now suddenly it's falling apart.
Right.
The porch on the house a couple of years ago was just fine, and now it's all collapsed and down on the ground. So I don't know if the owners have encouraged the dilapidation or not, but yes, right now it's in really bad shape. It's a hazard. In fact, it should probably be taken down because it's an attractive nuisance to all of those people who live on, not on,
Tioga.
no, not on the little cul-de-sac that's there to the north of them.
Oh,
Comes off of Henrici. There's a little cul-de-sac there that is, it's a loop there that's north of them. And I can imagine that it would be a really attractive place for kids who are living in that area to go over and look at the old house and play in the old house. And
wonderful. Jessica's
here we
bringing
go.
it up.
Yes.
Nice
Thank
job,
It's
Jessica.
Wilshire Circle. That's the one I'm talking about. The Wilshire Circle people, all of those people on the south side of Wilshire Circle are real close to this house. And it's just, it wasn't as decrepit as it is now.
Right. Well, and honestly, Bill, I have zero experience or knowledge about when you have a historic overlay. Is there some sort of requirement or expectation on maintenance? I'm going to assume you have a historic overlay to help with the reduction of property taxes, but that's again an assumption. So I don't know. I did quickly peruse the application, and it was interesting on the executive summary. They said something like this past, you have to have at least 40 points or more, up to like 170 points to even qualify for a historic overlay. And this property had like 41 points. So it was already a surprise that it was even granted an overlay. But again, without knowledge of what is an overlay, again, I'm pretty confident it's reduced property taxes.
But also, let me point out that executive summary is from AKS Engineering and Forestry, who are the applicants. So of course they're going to say, oh, it's terrible, we should take it down. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's hard to honestly form an opinion because I just don't know. I was kind of hoping somebody here would know something about historical overlays. I know there is a advisory board or commission called the Historic Overlay Board that these things go in front of to qualify for this overlay, and then maybe they do some sort of opinions on maintenance. I don't, but boy, I know nothing about it.
And
So,
the historic board will meet on November 18th. So after our meeting, so we can forward any kind of comments to the historical board as well.
yes, and we have 5-6 days. Maybe it would behoove us to do a little research on what is an overlay and what are the pros and cons. I can't imagine that would be too challenging. So that might be a fun project. Does anyone want to volunteer to do that?
Well, I'm going to talk to the planner about it myself, so I'll see if I can figure out something.
Okay. And if no one, has a half an hour to do some research on that. Yes, Mark, you have to unmute yourself there.
Jack has his hand up too.
Oh, okay. Hey, Mark?
I thought that you were, or not you, I thought that I was seeing some excavators over on the north side of that property and maybe some perk holes that were being dug.
Right. Yeah, there's
over in
lots
that area.
of test pits out there, a lot of them, but that's, test pits take an eternity to get examined. They're usually running 2-3 months behind. So I'm not surprised that those are there. And again, you have to remember it's RRFF5. They could split this 57 acres into, 10, 11 lots if they wanted to. And so
Sure.
I'm guessing that's why we're seeing the test pits out there. Yeah. Okay, well, let's
Jack
see.
has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Bill. Jack?
When was it granted this historical overlay?
Oh, it was in the executive summary. Blah. Is anybody looking at the app? Let me see if I've got it.
I'm looking at it right now. I'm trying to find it.
Okay. I think it was the executive summary. I'm going to say like 10 pages in.
I thought it was around 1990.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I
remember
believe so.
saying 1990 somewhere.
It was originally approved for a landmark status in 1990.
Nice job, Cheryl. Cool. Okay, so does that answer your question, Jack, or do you have more?
Oh, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, okay.
Elizabeth had her hand raised.
Oh,
John.
wonderful. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I didn't even see that. There it is. Oh, no, I don't see that. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
I can't see myself, so I wasn't able to see if I'm muted or if my hand is up. But thank you for noticing me. I kind of think it doesn't give a tax benefit. I'm not positive, but it might be a good question to pose to the county staff. I noticed when I was looking at the application, which is super long, like 100 pages, but I noticed that they were trying to get 28 residences on that property that would feed out onto Wilson Road. So it was quite a bit.
And when it comes to things like a zone change application, that will be the actual time that we'll want to talk about. And transportation's huge, but there's a lot of things like water, schools that are like overflowing, and parks, which we have none. And so really concurrency is going to be the super hot topic, along with the fact there was a point that Bill Merchant brought up, and I have put a tremendous amount of thought into it, and I don't know how really to broach this, but this isn't really how cities grow. I think that's how you said it, Bill. You usually have a city center, and then you have planning for, commercial and light industrial and residential and urban and rural. And Beavercreek is sort of just getting plunked down development all over the place. And of course, transportation is really suffering, but there's a lot more that's going to really suffer unless there's some plans that are established on not just when to grow and how to grow, but who plans it. And I think we all should be thinking really hard about that important statement. Did I leave anything out, Bill?
Well, the only thing that you left out is the other thing that's looming on 213, where there's that large acreage across from the golf course that also they would like to do something very similar to. So that would mean we have a lot more development along Beavercreek Road, which is already overwhelmed, and a lot more development across from the golf course on 213, which is also way overwhelmed. So we're talking about really impacting the citizens who live south of Oregon City. And these developments would not be focused towards Beavercreek. They'd be focused towards Oregon City. Mm-hmm. They'd be focused as bedroom communities for people who work in Hillsborough. And so they're not logical growth for this area at all. So I think that that's just what I was trying to talk to you about, was that there's, going from this zoning to a much smaller zone for, 2.5 times the amount of development that would be permitted is that's not in the best interest of Beavercreek and the hamlet of Beavercreek to want to encourage this kind of development.
And I saw your hand up, Mark, but before you launch, let me, since Bill brought it up, what I know about that property is right across from Stone Creek Golf Course, right across 213. It's the old Weiler farm with the big hay barns. That is a little over 100 acres. Again, I've already talked to the planner about it. They are also FF10, so not 5 acre, 10 acre. And what they're going to be going through the same process, and they're facing the same challenges at the county, was they'd like to go through a zone change first and then go through a subdivision application. But they're asking for RA2, same thing, 2 acre. If they can't get that, then RRFF5. But the planner has already said, because it's 213 and really the only road right there is Mitchell, which is very small, not a good line of sight, all that. They already see the writing on the wall that this is going to be a huge problem. But I wanted to give you a quickie background that too is big and coming down the pike. And so So Mark, you had a question.
Well, it all boils down to some of the discussion that we all had just not too long ago about getting in front of the county, letting them know our desires for the Hamlet to be involved in all this planning for Beavercreek, as well as 213 is involved with that too. So everything that we're talking about is just lends more credence to why we want to be involved.
And we'll talk a little bit later on that transportation meeting, but yes, absolutely. And I have communicated with Jennifer Hughes that we have learned about these subdivisions, and that just adds to, because of the development across from the high school has just made transportation first and foremost on all of our citizens' minds. And so we need to pay attention and get involved in that process. So, okay, Kenny has a hand up, and I see Elizabeth's hands up, but and if you have another question, you can come on, bring her over, Jess, but go ahead, Kenny.
Is that the property just north of Grandview Baptist, or is it a little further north than that?
A little further. There's
Okay.
Grandview, and then there's some property, and there's some barns, and it's the property around those barns.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It's between the big church and what is the name of that development? It has something to do with trees, like Douglas fir or something trees. But,
Fur loop.
say again.
I think it might be fur loop, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
something like that. Mhm. Okay, and Elizabeth's hands up.
I was wanting to mention, I talked to Jim Nacita because of his involvement with the Oregon City Historical Board.
Yeah.
And he mentioned that in Oregon City, they had a historical building, and they, the people who developed, they kept the historical building, and they had the development be adjacent to the historical building. So when people want to build out their property, or in this case, more than build out their property, they still can keep the historical building. It doesn't mean they have to get rid of it. And I was noticing when I was reading the application that this is one of the very few water towers that are left in the area. I think at the time that they approved this as one of the best ones left.
Very good.
Not anymore, though.
Yeah.
Well, if people were inspired, they could do some tender loving care. I noticed that the historical overlay just a little bit further south on Beavercreek Road, they've lavished a lot of attention on that. And some years ago, they came to us about a bed and breakfast application. I don't remember if that actually happened or not, but they just lavished all kinds of attention on that. And it's, I mean, when the owner likes their property, they can make it look good.
And that's that place across from Lammer. And yes, with the white fence and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, and they too have a water tower and a lot of really nice outbuildings. Exactly. And they've tried to do a lot there, like sports fields and stuff. Okay. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if it's deteriorated that quick, I wonder if an inheritance or something happened and the ownership changed to maybe somebody that has less interest or less means.
In talking with the planner, this was actually purchased by the couple. We're back on that, the application, Noah and Danielle Mann. It was purchased by them, is my understanding. And then they're trying to figure out, by working with the county, what can we do with this land? And so what they're, instead of developing as RRFF5, they want to maximize the value. Yes, Mark? You're on mute.
Yep. One of the things also with the Wilder Ranch over there, the Uses Ranch is on the east side of that, which is another large chunk of property that they bale hay and a few other things over there. I went to school with Chino. And that would follow suit. And some of those other properties in that whole region are still large and kind of isolated. But once they get rolling on the Wilder Ranch, it's just going to snowball into all the others. So they need to have future planning ideas coming from us.
Right. And we'll talk when we get a little bit further in the meeting about meeting with the county, talk about transportation, because that snowball effect is what is going to turn these two arterials into parking lots. So, okay. All right. So that's just all FYI that we'll bring up next week. And it looks like we've got some homework to do on the historic overlay. And maybe, and then, like I said, I just got that application today, the 101 page one. So it'll give us all time to maybe look through that a little bit more. And God.
Elizabeth has her hands up, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
I forgot to lower my hand. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
I would love to talk
Fine.
about it more, but I don't have much to say. I'm really glad that you guys are on it and caring about it.
Well, and thank you. You've been, kind of priming the pump on that. And we already had some homework done before I got that app today. So I felt pretty comfortable already having those conversations with the planner. So thank you. And obviously we'll have a livelier conversation during the town hall next Wednesday. So, okay, let's keep moving because we have some activity as well as decisions under agenda item 2. B, C, D, and E are all land uses that came before us. I believe we were supportive of them and they've all been approved with conditions. But the one I want to talk to you about is, it's going to land right into this conversation we just had. So what has become very popular in Clackamas County are these venue places. So if you have a farm and maybe you have a cool red barn or something, people want to turn them into entertainment places to get married or have a company picnic or whatever. And so I received a notice, a public hearing on a land use. Oh, let's see. I already have it on here. Okay. It's Z0540-19 conditional use, applicant Mark Herkamp. And this is on Mueller Road. So if you can all picture the intersection of Caris and 213 there by the little school. Okay, now start to go north. And on the right is that Kirk Farms where they have all the Christmas trees. Okay, go a little further. And on the right is Kirk Road. Is that right, Mark? Kirk Road? Yeah. And a little tiny bit further on the left is called a road called Mueller Road. Oh, Jessica, you're my saint. Thank you. There it is, Mueller. Okay. So here on Mueller is a farm. Oh, do you see the red dot? Yeah, that's it. That's okay. You found it. Thanks, Jessica. It's that whole area with all those roads. If you take Jessica's arrow and go straight up and a little bit to the left, there's a barn. A little to the, yes. Now go to the right and straight down and there's another barn. Okay. So was very curious about this. First of all, when this was all applied for, it was back in 2019. And it's why we knew nothing about it. It was under the Caris Cpo. And it went, oh boy, it has a huge history. In 2019, it was approved by the county for a venue. And then it was appealed to LUBA by Thousand Friends of Oregon. And then it came back from LUBA that a lot of what the county did was fine, but there was a piece that wasn't fine. So it went to the hearings officer in April of 2020. And then it came back from the hearings officer saying it's no problem, they can do what they want to do. It went back to LUBA in October of 2020. This has been literally a ping pong ball. And it was LUBA, it was then appealed to the Court of Appeals, which reversed LUBA's order. And God, it's very confusing. I'm sorry. It even went to the Oregon Supreme Court, which denied any activity in it. So now it is back and it's going to the hearings officer. Here's the deal. For what they've applied for to have activities is okay with the county. it's not okay with the neighbors. And it's all these neighbors around them that are taking it anywhere and everywhere they can take it to not have this. They don't want 300 people there 6 times a year with all the traffic and the cars and the parking and the lights and the noise. And what they're hanging their hat on, and this is very, very interesting to me, that the buildings that they have these activities in have to originate as accessory buildings to agricultural work. So let's say a cow milking barn, a barn that stored hay, something that raised pigs, I mean, whatever, an accessory to agricultural working, or accessory building to a homestead. So that might be a shop or a place, a garage that you parked cars or your tractors, or what, I guess that would be an ag building. But so they're saying that these had to be accessory buildings, original. And what they're fighting is that you can't make improvements. You have to have these venues in these barns that stored tractors or something. Well, I don't know how that would even work, because all these venues out there have taken these old barns and they've turned them into amazing works of art, you know, redoing the interiors and put in, you know, ADA bathrooms and commercial kitchens with stainless steel everywhere, and so that they can have these activities. But this is the battle. And so in talking with, it was Clay, the planner, he said, we will not probably in our lifetimes see an end to this, because they're just going to appeal it and appeal it and appeal it. So I don't know what's going to happen. So, okay, all that being said, we have one of these coming down the pike soon for us to review. And this is, okay, now just go right across from Mueller and a little bit south, and that's Kirk Road. And if you go down Kirk Road, and Mark Hilliard actually owns some property down there, there is a humongous home with a gob of outbuildings, and they too have applied for a event permit. And so this, we're going to need to educate ourselves on these events so that we can handle this, you know, appropriately. Mark, do you want to add anything to that whole statement?
Well, this has been a ongoing small battle with all the neighbors down through there, and the 50,000 square foot mansion that Mr. Childs has built down there is exactly that. This is part of the old Rossett 200 acre farm, berry farm that was down there. I've had conversations with Mike Raffel, who owns property down there, and also with Gary Linton, who owns there, and he's very much involved with the Canby Fair and so forth. There's a lot of interest on that road to pursue involvement with that and to carry it on. And Mr. Childs has been trying to do, with or without permits, different events that go down at the big pond down there, several acre pond. So there's going to be push back and forth, like you said, Tammy. So we need to educate ourselves so that we can help the neighbors and help ourselves, because I do know that down Kirk Road, it's a one-way road, although its easements go on to Beaver Glen Drive. Just the old cemetery down there, when they have interments, that road will be blocked for almost all the way for the next mile and a half with cars, people parking. So I don't know how things will be going with that road. And that's a gravel road that's been overlaid with gravel and so on. It won't handle an awful lot of it. So like you said, educating ourselves as a hamlet, and as people want to get involved in getting ourselves figured out, how do we get others, the word out, so we get more involvement with our community to deal with that one, as well as Mueller. And I know several families down Mueller that I've been friends with since I was a kid as well. So let's get involved. Let's get educated.
Yes, Jessica.
What do you mean by get educated?
Learn, we can go to the ordinances and we can learn what is allowed for when you apply for an event. What is it called? What's the official? One sec, it's you're applying to hold events, but it's called a something sort of application. Well, it just says hosting events, but anyway, there are ordinances at the county that spell out what is allowed, like up to 300 guests, how many times per year, how much parking do you have to have, what kind of facilities, restroom, there's going to be a whole set of rules about that. It's super popular in stuff like Newburgh and for the wineries. I think that's where the huge push started, where all these vineyards that were just gorgeous and have these amazing outbuildings, and then they turn part of their tasting rooms into event centers where people are having weddings and stuff. And so then it shifted to old dairy farms and facilities that don't have flat property, don't have a big parking lot, and don't have a wonderful ingress egress. And so now this is starting to get way more challenging. So that it's a simple set of ordinances that we can go on and grab, and then we can all read it, and then we'll understand at least how the county views them and what the requirements are. They are a conditional use. They're not something that are just a simple app. They come in, there's a lot of data that's brought forth, and then it goes in front of a hearings officer. I did talk with the planner on the one that I put in our agenda on Mueller Road. And I said, obviously this started years before we were covering this area. Is there any value in us getting involved? And he said, no, not at all. But it's under the care of the neighbors and the applicant, and this will go on for years, and there's nothing that we can help with. So I said, okay, but I want to use this as a learning stepping stone for the one that we do know that's coming. So, okay, and so educational moment there. Any other quick questions?
Carol has her hand up, and so do I.
Oh, great. Cheryl.
All that being said, the one thing that is first and foremost in my brain is who's going to enforce, or in the case of our county, not enforce the regulation when those rules pertaining to those venues are violated. Because this county is horrible at not holding feet to the fire or close enough to the fire.
And Cheryl, not only is that point well taken, a lot of these activities happen on weekends. And who are you going to call? So unfortunately, if it's something that is of grave concern, we would obviously call the sheriff's office. But then you would wait and get a hold of code enforcement and say, it's maximum 300. There were easily 500 people here. And I suppose if there's enough complaints that they can have these permits taken away, and that would be a very expensive loss because it takes a lot to pull these off. Bill?
So my question, I think you're right, it's educational, but I would like to personally educate myself a little bit more by going over some of the records here. I mean, if it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, Oregon Supreme Court, I'd like to know sort of what the gist of all the arguments were going all the way up there and coming back down, because you're right, this is going to happen to us again. So if we know what other people have argued, we'll be prepared for those arguments.
And I can get Clay to send that entire packet to us on PDF.
Or just a link to it. I mean, if it's on the county's website, it's easy enough to get a link and go off to their website rather than, like downloading. I think the last one I downloaded was 10.5 megabytes of information that I really didn't need to have that on my iPad. I could just have easily just looked at the link, but getting a link to the information would be fine with me. I don't have to have it on my device.
Yeah,
So-
I will, that's simple, super simple. And I think that is a very good way to, let's look at that, but then we'll also pull the ordinances and take a look at that. So good. All right, let's keep moving. We have obviously a very full agenda. Do we have any hands up? No. Okay. Jack, yeah, you have quite a little list on our agenda. Any contact or movement with our night shift watch commander, Marcus Mendoza? I know that we've sent a Zoom link to our town hall meeting, correct, Jessica? Okay, yes, so the answer is yes. So go ahead, Jack.
Well, one thing, he's been shifted to graveyard supervisor now, which is 10 at night to 7 in the morning. And I don't know yet how that will impact him participating, being those hours. I will try and contact him and find out.
Or possibly our sheriff to ask if there is somebody else that we can invite to our meetings, say quarterly.
Yes, I chatted with her, and I'll go into that in a little bit.
Okay,
And
go ahead.
one of the things is, well, she informed me about him being moved to graveyard. And I did mention, well, maybe we can come up with somebody else, and she is pursuing that.
Awesome.
Now, the second thing you had on there, I'm confused by additional CCSO contact and a lady's name. What is that?
Okay, there is what's called the CPO Summit, which is run by Jennifer, what's her name?
Karen Bjorklund.
Karen Bjorklund, thank you. And there was a mention in one of those that Mike is one of the CPO representatives. Learn the sheriff's officer is no longer assigning lieutenants to CPOs, but can still respond to concerns or attend meetings as needed. Contact Officer Sarah McClurg, and she said to let her know if you want someone from the lieutenant's rank, and she will make sure they follow through, and that she is always happy to come out as well. It was something that Bill Merchant had read from the CPO Summit minutes, I believe, that Sarah is someone also who can get us a speaker. If sheriff doesn't get back to us or is struggling to get us somebody assigned, maybe Sarah could help as well. That's all.
I'm not familiar with who she is. Is she a deputy or a staff member or what with the office?
They just called her Officer Sarah McClurg. So I don't know.
Well, because deputies are not known as officers.
Oh,
They're that's usually a police department, which would imply like Oregon City or something. And I'm not familiar with the name. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. It was just something that came our way out of the CPO Summit. So I thought we would just bring it up. And then post office, any luck on that?
Well, I noticed somebody did spray the bushes a little bit.
Awesome.
I have no idea who did that,
Yeah.
but there is, they're browned a bit. Visibility is a little bit better. The post office, like I mentioned earlier, the post office says, hey, that's up to the owner and we have nothing to do with it. We just, rent this property. And so.
Mm-hmm. And any chance that you asked about the 2 dead trees in the parking lot, what they're going to do, or?
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh, okay. Just curious about.
No.
It's just looking at like a very sad post office.
Yeah, it is.
And then there's been lots of activity on Facebook about grade school, traffic and parking. Do you want to take over on that, Jack?
Yep, I chatted with the sheriff about that. And she said, surely the citizens, she's hoping the citizens aren't saying ticket every one of them, because that would not accomplish anything other than just give everybody a ticket and then they'd still be in line to pick up their kid. She recognizes it is a problem. She's going to have a captain and some other deputies look into it. She feels that the people that can really resolve it is the school district, Oregon City School District. And that's the people that need to be, she's the, the local school. They operate under the direction of the Oregon City School District. And so she is going to reach out to them, to the Oregon City School District, and see what can be done.
Okay. Well, a couple years ago, one of our citizens, Amy Manning, and I had pulled a meeting together pre-COVID at the grade school. And it included parents, also the sheriff's office, the fire department, Oregon City School District, also the principal of the grade school, the fire department, county representatives, and then obviously the Hamlet was represented. And we came together and said, we don't really give a rip whose problem it is. This is a problem. We have people illegally parking. It is unbelievably dangerous because they're walking in front of cars to get to their parked car. But more importantly, we're getting this traffic jam in both directions to and from the grade school. And unfortunately, it appears that people who live out past the grade school are insanely impatient people. And they do very dangerous and illegal things with their cars when there's a backup. So there were many things talked about at the meeting. They were redoing how they brought the traffic in, how they made a couple lines for kids to be dropped off and picked up. Many things were discussed. And one of my responsibilities was to go to Mike Besner, which I did, and said, hey, we desperately, for safety, need a turn lane right there. We have the room, the corner's very wide, you'd have to reconfigure it a bit, but we need a turn lane going south on Beavercreek so that you can get in queue to take a left into the grade school. So he said he looked at it and yeah, there's no room. I'm like, yes, there is. There's lots of room. Matter of fact, there's so much room, we usually have about 10 cars parked in all that room. So something has to be done. So guess who's going to be our guest speaker next Wednesday? So this needs to be brought up to him again. So here's why this is all happening again. Parents like to drop their kids off and pick them up. It's even worse now that they're back at school because of COVID. I know a couple bus drivers, and the bus protocol is 10 times more strict and safe than being in a school district or in a building. You can't believe what those bus drivers go through to keep those kids safe. But parents are not putting them on buses. They're driving them and they're picking them up. And so I guess it's a huge mess. I haven't seen it. I don't drive it, but it's dangerous and it's a problem. So we may have to go back to gathering all the folks, but I think let's start with Mike Besner next week and see what we can do there. And then we'll take it from there on. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Amy posted a couple of things on Facebook, and one of the suggestions she made I thought was is actually awesome. And that was some hubs for the bus. In other words, the buses would run less than a mile for the concern of the parents, and such. But the parents would go to one, like maybe the 10 o'clock church would be a hub. They could do a hub down by our park or something like that, where the bus would take the students to there, and that's where parents could pick up their kids and go. And I agree 100% that I think it's kind of foolish to think that a parent is protecting their child by keeping them off of a bus. Mm-hmm. They're potentially putting them at more harm, something happening, if there would be a bad accident or something like that because of everything that's happening. So just
right. Well, and Amy is very clever. That is a very clever idea. The other one that she and I came up with was maybe the grade school could have sixth graders dropped off between 7:30 and 7:45, and fifth graders dropped off between 7:45 and 8, and fourth graders dropped off between 8 and 8:15. So if you've got like 3 kids in school, if you're gonna run kids and not put them on a bus, you run 3 times to drop them off and 3 times to pick them up. And then I bet the bus would be very attractive. But if we'd spaced it out that way for pickup and drop off, that might be another idea.
Of course, then there would be the parent that thinks, oh, I can beat this. I'll just park there. And with the 2 kids in the car and we'll chat and stuff like that until it's their time to go in.
Or you just add 2 or 3 additional trips into an already, I was going to use a bad word, messed up situation.
Right. Bill?
I just anecdotal information, since you said you don't drive it. The other day I was trying to go south on Beavercreek Road, and it was backed up all the way down the hill to Ferguson. And I did not turn south on Beavercreek Road at that point. Just no way. I went a different way, and I went down to Karras Road, and I got on to 213, Beavercreek Road at Karras. But it was just insane that it was backed up all the way down to Ferguson, down the hill to Ferguson, from the intersection there. So
I would have just gone to Camarath rather than 213, but that's me.
oh no, I went down, back to Camarath, and I went down Camarath to Karras, and then I went Karras over to Beavercreek and south on Beavercreek because I had to go down Beavercreek.
I've had my hand up, so I'm going to use the opportunity to sneak in. Jack, it looks like the Sarah McClurg lady is a community service officer. Does that mean anything to you?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Community officer, they would be somebody that would be like at the front desk and stuff like.
Yeah, it says non-sworn front desk. They can do a little bit of help with investigations, but can't do like arrests or anything. So
Correct. Okay.
That's apparently what she is.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Kenny. Good. Okay, appreciate that. I just love having computers at our fingertips. Okay, Jack, did you have anything else to report this evening?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate you jumping out on that Facebook stuff. Cheryl, you're on.
We have $2,730.46 in our checking account. We have $3,070.71 in our trust account, and $48.84 in the cash account. So our total is $58,5001.
Awesome, thank you. Will you shoot me that report on email?
Yeah.
Great, thank
I
you.
will. I will.
Okay, and do you want to chat about bank statement changes? I'm not going to tattle on you.
That was a meeting, that wasn't a statement. I had heart failure earlier this week. I went to, aside from getting a hard copy of our bank statements being mailed to the post office box, to expedite the reconciliation of the statements, the treasurer's office, the county treasurer's office emails Hamlet's villages a copy of their bank statements to their treasurers, so reconciliation can be done more quickly. I got the statement, I think it was last week. And I realized probably an hour ago, I don't think I finished the process of that reconciliation, because my eyes immediately went to our address on our checking account changed from the post office box in Beavercreek to some post office box in Gladstone. And it was on Friday and there was no one around in the county office, no one except for Kelly Lute. And I had just a long list of concerns about who's hijacking our checking statement because it's got all the account information on it. Come to find out, the change was instituted within the treasurer's office. They did it incorrectly. And so we got that all settled. I had a little meeting, trust account. We got notice from Kelly Lute that the formatting of the handling of all the trust monies within the county is being changed, and we're not going to get reports for a couple of months. And I'm okay with that. The other thing that I've been working on with Tammy and Bill, and now the treasurer's office, is automatic deposit of our money from the county into our checking account. That would eliminate us getting a check. They sent me a sample copy of the form they wanted filled out, and that just opened up, again, more questions from me. They only required one signature. Our bylaws, and please jump in, Bill, if I say something that's incorrect. Our bylaws have language in it regarding our checking account and the number of signatures required on a check. And I felt that the county should allow for that. No one person on the board should be able to say, set this account up so that the money is automatically directed into this bank account. That also gives you the power to go in and say, now I want to change and reroute that money from the Hamlet's bank account to my personal account because I want to go on vacation. We're no checks and balances. And that's why I felt that more signatures were required. There were some other clerical things, like because it's a county bank account, I feel the treasurer's office should take the responsibility of filling in the bank account information and making sure that all those checks and balances are taken care of. What did I miss, Tammy? So I met with the treasurer and his representative today with Tammy, and they are going to take all of that on and deal with the appropriate people that they need to see to it that is all taken on. The one thing that they cannot do is a preliminary run of processing the bank account information to make sure that it's accurate before it's happened. However, we were reassured that there would be no error when it comes to our next deposit, and it would go directly into our bank account. My silent response was, we'll see.
Yep. And we talked about a lot of stuff today, but mostly it was about the automatic deposit as well as the bank statement that had several errors. And of course, the bank went back to charging us fees and they got that taken off. But it sounds like we're on the straight and narrow and everything's well in hand. So I'm feeling comfortable after that meeting.
When they said that there would be no issues, did you just ask them about the address change? Because that's what I would have done.
Well, okay. You want to honesty and divulging what the county did not make the mistake. The county went back and looked at the request and they said the Stafford Hamlet address needs to change from this to this. And they pulled up the Hamlet of Beavercreek and changed our address. And it was the bank that actually did it. So that was good, except,
And my question at that point when they said that too is, we never got a notice from anyone that anything on our account changed. And I don't think that the treasurer's office even realized it until I raised the issue.
And I don't understand that at all. If I request a change of anything in any of my accounts, I always get in the mail a piece of paper that says, this request has been made. Please call this number if you didn't make it. And we didn't get that, and we should have gotten that, or the county should have. And so, Brian Nava, the treasurer, was like, oh no, we're not going to get confirmation because we requested it. I'm like, anytime you make a change to any account, you are to be notified in writing. So
I mean, I would assume that comes to whatever deal the county has in place with the bank. I mean, they could have, who knows?
right.
But I would still point out, even if the bank messed that up, the bank is capable of messing up a direct deposit too. So.
Oh, they absolutely. And I agree. And I suggested that they do something similar to what the cash apps do these days, is you deposit a penny and then you reverse a penny, just to make sure that all your little transit ABA numbers are correct. So,
Okay. Anything else, Cheryl?
Yes, with regard to looking at the language in our bylaws, Bill, you said that you found something that says that treasurers are not to be reimbursed.
Oh, yeah. Our bylaws have a little quirk in them that says that you can't sign your own check, of course,
Right.
And there's something in the bylaws that would make it impossible for you to get reimbursed for any expenses that you might have, which is completely wrong. I mean, that was not our intent at all. So we ought to take a look at that the next time we look at our bylaws.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Cheryl. Thanks, Bill. All right, let's launch. Joe. I know. Joe
We
and
didn't have a
I,
meeting.
we can't get our acts together to get this sign thing done. Don't ask me why. We'll work on it. Anything to add?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, nothing else. And Jessica, anything to report? And any, am I right? Yes, I am. Any word from Energy Trust, or have you really had any time to pursue a guest speaker?
No, I'm not going to pursue Energy Trust anymore. I was going to go back to PGE to see if they could provide someone.
And
It didn't
looks like, oh, go ahead.
It didn't sound like they were amiable to that either, but I will try again.
Okay.
There's no update.
Okay, no update. And at this point, we're covered for speakers this year. We'd really be looking for, filling the guest speaker slots for 2022. So yeah, that would be great. But thank you. Anything else, Jessica? Okay, and
No.
thank you. I really super want to thank you. We worked really hard as a team to get these Zooms and scheduled and out there early, and agendas out there early, and reminders. And so it was spot on perfect. Thank you so much for all your efforts. That was,
Yeah, I'm glad that worked this time.
it did.
I don't know what was going on with the other ones, but yeah, if you saw a bunch of deleted invites, that was because I was just starting from scratch. And
Perfect.
it seemed like it's working this time. It seems like everyone got the day ahead and the hour ahead, correct?
That's great. That was spectacular. That is so
Good.
helpful.
Good.
Okay, we'll see how it goes next week with the community. Okay,
Cool.
good. Nothing else then, Jess? Okay, thank you again. Bill, you are up.
So just as a sort of a tie on to what Jess was just saying, when I tried to log in here to this meeting, it came up with log in to start the meeting. And I thought, but I went ahead and did it, and then popped on, and Jessica and you were there. So I don't know what that's going on either. Zoom is weird. I just, haven't quite figured it all out yet. But anyway, just to mention that I could not get into the practice session until I signed on. And so then I got into the practice session, but who knows? So R1 Act, we're meeting every 2 months now. We met earlier this month. We are still talking about all of the things that we've been talking about forever of tolling and stuff like that, mostly looking at the state transportation improvement program and some monies that were used to be in the STIP, but then they were in the STIF, and moving those monies for active transportation over. So ODOT is reorganizing how they're funding stuff. And it doesn't really affect us at all, but they're just in the midst of all of that stuff. But we are only meeting every 2 months, so I won't be meeting again until December. Cpo Summit is again meeting, didn't meet last month, but is going to be meeting this month, next week. So I don't have anything to report on them. The C800 Citizens Oversight Committee is only meeting every other month as well. And I have nothing to report from what I told people the last time. Community Road Fund Advisory Committee. We had a Zoom meeting of the members who were still on the committee. New members were proposed but had not been approved onto the committee by the Board of County Commissioners, so they weren't there. We did have one person who just sat in as a public member to see what was going on, but now all of the members are have been approved to be on the committee, and I'm back on the committee for another 3 years, and I am still the chair right now. There was a real mix-up. The agenda said the meeting started at 5:30, and other things said it started at 5. But I read the agenda, and I wasn't there until 5:30. Actually, about 5:20, and it was a mess up. But things went ahead, and nothing really is changing too much. We are trying to have another meeting sometime early next year. We're only meeting a couple of times a year. The diversity, equity, and inclusion statement for the website, I don't know where that is, frankly, and I need to find out, and I will put it on the website because I think we all agreed on it. The 10 o'clock church, I know I keep telling you it's there.
I know, and you and I were going to get on there and look at the diversity in the 10 o'clock church. So,
that's a to be done item still.
okay, well, you and I will do those two this week. Okay,
Right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So the elections, you talked to Katie more than I have. So is she going to be running the elections?
She
happening?
will be ready. And at this point, we have our 3 incumbents re-upping, reapplying. And the board is opening one position for a member who hopefully has property in the Karis area. And that would be why Mark Hilliard is sitting here this evening, because he has made application to be a board member and has a chunk of land on Kirk Road in the Karis area. And unfortunately, Mark will not be able to join us next week. So I asked him if there was any chance that he could meet this board meeting. And so I think, yes, so Katie is ready and she'll have all the things, whatever has to happen that we did like last year. Thank you, Bill.
And because the incumbents are running unopposed and we only got one application from Mark, so he's running unopposed, essentially, it should be a slam dunk for nobody having to do anything. And historic pictures on the website with Claire Kellogg. I've had a couple of discussions with Claire. We haven't gone anyplace much. We did just talk about how the city of Lake Oswego had a disclaimer kind of thing, so that if you donated your picture to the library, you gave them the right to use it and without any compensation and stuff like that. So we've been talking about that. We haven't progressed very much on that. And the corner park covered area. Oh, I know. When I was putting up a sign the other day at the corner park, somebody just stopped their car and walked over to talk to me and said, you know what would be really great is if we had some sort of neighborhood exchange kind of thing that we could do at the corner park, where people who have good items that they aren't useful to them anymore, they'd like to get rid of them, could just exchange them, not for sale, just for exchange. And I said, okay, that's a good idea. I'll bring it to the board. I can see lots of problems. I sent out an email about this. I can see lots of problems with it, about if we let people just drop stuff off, we could have a nice junk pile there at the yard, which we don't want to have. But it might be interesting to consider next year, when the weather clears up and looks nice, having trying to an experiment to say a neighbor exchange, no funds, no money exchanges hands. This is only if you've got something good and you don't need it anymore and you'd like to get rid of it and somebody else might like to take it. And you'd have to stay there with your item. You couldn't just drop it off. You'd have to leave it. And if somebody wanted to take it from you, you could let them do that. But the example she used, the woman who stopped me, is she said her parents were putting out a leather chair and love seat. And they were nice leather, in good shape, leather chair and love seat. And they just felt terrible because they put it out in the end of the driveway and, sitting out in the weather, and they didn't know what was going to happen to it, but they didn't want it. It was really good stuff, but they didn't want it anymore. So I said, okay, well, I'll bring it to the board. So that's an idea probably for next year to think about it when COVID's a little bit more under control and the weather's a little bit nicer. We might want to have a neighbor exchange fair or something like that, which is different from the sale that we used to have there. So, and I see two hands up now.
We may want to modify the craft fair and
Yeah.
Into something that includes an area that if you have stuff to give away.
Or maybe separate things. Maybe we have a craft fair as well as a neighbor exchange fair. So, and I see Kenny and Jack both have their hands up.
My concern is that we definitely don't, that we have if we're going to do something like this, that it be something that is supervised and attended on a specific day.
Yep.
Rather than, okay, that's just a place I can drop off my stuff and hopefully somebody will take it.
Yeah, we definitely don't want that. I know that.
Okay.
And Kenny?
I had a question tying back to the community road fund, kind of, but it's probably more for Tammy. I was just wondering if anyone had an update on the trailer thing. The fee for the trailers.
You mean the fee for trailers?
Yeah.
The last I heard from Mike Besner was that was going before the Board of County Commissioners this month. And he's going to be here next Wednesday. So let's add that to our Besner list. So we need to talk to him, let's see, about the grade school and the vehicle registration fee for trailers. Okay, and okay, beautiful. We'll just
Do we want to?
Mhm.
Do we want to also ask him about if they're going to do work on all the feeder roads into our area at the same time again next year?
Well, that's going to be kind of his topic. Ultimately, what we have asked him to speak on is current and future transportation projects and funding. So he's going to probably start pretty big with what's in our area and what's planned and what's funded and that thing. And then in just a minute, we're going to talk to you about a meeting with the county on transportation. So then it'll boil down to probably this conversation about this transportation meeting. And then we can talk about things like grade school and vehicle registration fees and stuff. So It will be a wonderful time. What we don't want to do is scare him away. We want to, be super respectful. What is the county planning? There's going to be, there currently is a lot of development in our area. What is the county doing besides just responding to Oregon City?
And doing garbage messaging with the road closure. But
Oh yeah, we can talk about the road closure too.
I did finally find a sign on the south side, I think on Karis or Camarath, but not actually on Beavercreek. So if you were headed north on Beavercreek, you never saw a sign until you hit the actual closure and detour, which is just asinine.
Well, and we want to bring that up. I know the signage was a super issue because this literally happened overnight. The decision was
They
made.
put it up.
They just did it.
They put it up on a Friday,
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, I think, and it was Monday closure. So not even a business day, I think, or maybe on a Thursday and there's one business day. But I'm also not worried about scaring him away because he's on the county payroll and he has to talk to people, right?
Well, you wouldn't believe how long it's taken me to get him here. And we told him we'd be very professional and kind. Now we don't want to, you made a mess, fix it, or I don't know. We don't
You
want to.
promised him that random citizens that might show up are going to be respectful and kind.
Right, no, I couldn't do that.
Okay.
I can speak for our board because we're all pretty good. Okay, super. I have a good list for Mike and we'll keep, I do want to talk about the Evergreen. Boy, those buildings are going up, aren't they?
Ticky tacky.
Very sad. Okay, Bill, anything else?
Nothing else from me.
Beautiful, thank you. And Kenny, were you able to attend any of the retreats and?
No, and I haven't had time to read up on it yet. Maybe for the town hall next week, I can.
Oh, good. You know what? I'll put that on the C4. I'll put it on the agenda for next week.
I know they only had like 4 hours, I think, 2 hours on Friday and 2 hours on Saturday. So it must have been pretty targeted.
Wow, that was the whole retreat.
Yeah, well, because it was virtual
Yeah.
and it was not at the normal time. So that it was a much truncated. So I think it must have been pretty targeted to a couple specific things.
Okay.
But again, I haven't had a chance to read the minutes that they sent out yet. So.
Okay, that'd be great. And I'm sure that tolling was a big part of it. Okay, anything CRW or anything else in C4?
Mm-mm.
Okay, let's launch with some miscellaneous stuff. I have all the information to the county on requesting our signs to be made and mounted. Have not heard, and I have so far followed up twice and have heard nothing. So we'll be staying on this like crazy.
Well, at least they haven't said that they're installed.
Oh, good Lord. Well, yeah. Okay, COVID, Delta variant. So I never did hear from H3, which is Health, Housing, and Human Resources from the county. There was a gentleman that was going to contact me about maybe putting on a program in the rural area as far as helping citizens who would have questions, need a ride, whatever. I think I won't wait any longer. I think I'll just call him. I have his name, so I'll work with that. We did get, I think you've all seen the videos, autographs after the Zoom. So we received the videos from Joe Matteo, which was really good. And Bill's, my little arena groomer, and myself. So we have, I think, 8 more. 1 second. I've got the list right here. We have Jessica Cernak walking Mr. Odin that should be coming in. And, oh, darn it, there's my list. There it is. DJ, David here, he was on his Traco. And then we have, oh, my neighbors, Gina and Sean, they were hiking about the ranch. And then I had a couple other friends show up, and one was riding his horse in the arena and the other was doing gardening in the landscape. So we have, I think, 5 more videos coming, and I have not seen that get pushed out yet. Bill.
That was my question. Have we got any links to final YouTube videos so that we can put them on our website to refer people to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I thought I sent those YouTubes out. I
Well,
didn't.
I saw 3 YouTube
Yes.
links, but they weren't said, this is final. I didn't see that anything from Katie that said,
Okay.
this is the final edit. This is what we want to have out in our name, because it's really in Clackamas County's name that
Right.
we're doing these things. So until I get a final
Okay.
blessing from the county on those links, I don't want to put them up on the website.
Says here are the YouTube links to videos that you can share with your board.
See, with
Garrett-
the board, not
Oh, once-
not with the public, and that's where I'm.
Okay, I see. I see. It says, once Garrett reviews the audio concerns, because I think there was some input, I will share links that can be posted to your website, social media, etc. So
And-
I asked Katie, can if I'm good with my video, there's not going to be any edits on mine. Can I put it on my Facebook? And she said, oh, absolutely. I mean, she checked and came back and said, yes. So, but obviously, let me right now send her, I've just put, have we received? And I'll just write to Katie and say, have we received the final to go on our website? So thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
And then I have not heard, I have actually followed up with Katie asking where the other 5 videos are. So we'll see them when we see them, but let's see.
If we have a time at the end of this, maybe after the recording or whatever, can I do a practice session with this to make sure the audio and everything is okay?
Oh, yes, definitely. Okay,
Cool.
because we were going to play these.
Yeah,
next week. Okay.
let's do it at the end. So.
Okay.
Going.
That would be great, Jess. Thank you. Let's let me make a note so I don't zoom past that. Okay, good. So very exciting. I thought the videos were very cool. It was a super fun thing to do. And so, okay, holiday tree lighting celebration. So the committee is meeting. I don't have the date. Hold on. We're having a Zoom meeting of the committee, which is a rather large committee. And I think it's the 28th. So October 28th is next Thursday after our Hamlet meeting. And that's where we'll decide what's going to happen and who's going to be in charge of it and all of that. So as soon as we know, I will get an email out to all of you because this will be after our community meeting. Normally, our tree lighting ceremony is the first Saturday of December. So it would in fact be slated for December 4th, unless, I don't know why we couldn't, but unless for some reason it couldn't be pulled off by then, but you could put it in your calendar as December 4th. Okay, so that is that. Just prior to COVID, I had done a in-person presentation to the Stafford Hamlet about how this committee handles land use applications. You know, when they come in, I email them to you, we look at them, we discuss them here, and then it's brought before our community and then any communication to the county. So they have been really slammed lately with conditional use, stuff that goes to hearings officers or are a bigger deal. And the kind of applications get a lot more attention. So they asked if I would come talk to them about what we do. And I'm like, if I can get help. So Jennifer Hughes would volunteer, and she and I did just a Zoom presentation. So Jennifer was first up, and she really explained the difference between an ordinary land use application, which is called a level 2, and the bigger level 3, where it goes to hearings officers, and it's a different deal. The kind of stuff we're seeing recently. And so she described all that and how it's handled differently by the county and how the hearings officer handles it, or things that would actually go on to the planning commission or board of county commissioners. And then I just came on and really gave them the same spiel I already did, that when we get them, when we in our gut know that it's going to attract a lot of attention, we are as transparent as we possibly can be. We get it out there in every media format that we know how, and we take great lengths to educate our citizens and encourage them to participate. A lot of times we don't just do written communication, but also oral testimonies to those. So it was a nice presentation, well received. They have big crowds at their Hamlet meetings on Zoom. I mean, it's like 20, 30, 40 people. So it was pretty fun. That was that. And then I hope you all received the email I sent out today on hopefully the end of the lawsuit on the accident that was at Henrici and Beavercreek Road. Did you get that email? Okay. I sent an email out today and it looks like it's over.
They were granted a summary dismissal,
Mhm.
but they have 30 days to appeal. So
Mhm. Exactly. So that may be behind us all. And that's all I had to report. We have our town hall meeting next Wednesday, October 27th. I sent out a draft agenda to everyone. So let's take a look at that. We have our guest speakers. I didn't put Katie Wilson as a guest speaker because she'll be running the election. And after she does that, I will ask her to report on a few things like our signs. Did the approved bylaws get on the website? Where are the rest of the videos? Did she get the legislative speaker for November? And did she find out if 2 signatures are required at Malino and Stafford? Bill.
So you said, I thought I saw something that said that the bylaws are approved and I can put them officially on the website. So I'm going to do that.
Our website, yes,
Uh-huh.
but I want to make sure Katie gets them on the county.
Right, right.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, yes, but you're good to go, Bill, for us. Okay, so then we'll have our guest speaker, we'll have our elections. Do we want to play those videos up front there, or do we want to do that at the end, or where would we like to play our community video? Oh, and I should ask, Joe and Bill, are you comfortable with us playing those videos? Okay, I kind of thought so, but I just want to make sure.
I mean, if I'm comfortable with having them out there on the World Wide Web for the world to look at, yes, I'm comfortable with having them
I
at
think
a meeting.
I don't want to assume anything.
otherwise they'd have done what I did.
What did you do?
I didn't make a video.
Oh, you didn't. Yes, there you go. Tell me, where do we want? Okay, we usually right out of the chutes have our guest speaker, and then we'll do our elections. That's usually right at the front. And then do we want to wait to do videos, or do we want to play them? I mean, they're like a minute and a half each.
It don't matter to me when you do it. One thing I do need to let you know, on the box under my picker, it's got the GP, George Packing. I got a hold of George already about it, just to verify, and they have no concerns.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I should have called John Deere. Bill was on my John Deere tractor.
That's different.
Okay.
Yeah, tractors and stuff are different, but that's actually has George Packing on it, so.
Wow. Okay. That's good to know. Wow. I wouldn't have even thought of that one.
I think we should do it sooner in the meeting than later.
Okay.
Well, we have people, if people decide to drop off.
Okay,
So-
then Jessica, I put Katie there, but if you're able to play those tonight, it's all good. I'm gonna put your name there as the person playing that. Okay, and so then we'll have public comments and questions, and I'll cover that at the end about how we need to depict that. Okay, so then the big land use application. I have not added the one that we discussed tonight about the historic. Oh, land layout. All of you, including you, Mark, and Elizabeth is gone. On your email is the historic layout complete description. What is it? How do you apply? What the benefit? It's on your email right now. So we'll have the first application that Bill will lead and you will all support. And then the historic, then I'll come back on and we'll do the historic layout.
Tammy,
Yes.
You want to clarify what you mean by you will all support?
Meaning, as a board, you will lead the discussion and answer questions.
Thank you. I
this
just
could
wanted to
be-
make sure you were
No,
covered.
no, we're not supporting the application, God, no. Just as, this could get, we could have 150 people. This could get contentious, which, you know, I certainly know Bill's been through lots of these, but it can get emotional and it can get confrontational. And so I just mean sticking as a very professional group and guiding our citizens through how to be effective in this process.
Not unlike the solar thing,
Yeah, a little bit like that.
except
A lot like that.
I know I irritated some people at that meeting, so.
Well, you can just tell by Facebook. There's just, you know, when people come on and say things like, oh, that darn city council, they just do whatever they want to do. So there's going to be some very clear educating that's got to go on about how this works and that you do have a voice, not just through your Hamlet, but that you can go do testimony and, you know, all the stuff you guys know. Don't throw Bill to the wolves.
I guess I'm coming prepared into that meeting with a pre-made filter of let's listen for, you know, degrading comments that are made or anything like that, that's just not acceptable. I don't think it should be acceptable. I'm ready to like mute or kick them off entirely. Because not Tammy, Katie, when she was giving the training on this Zoom thing, she's like, sometimes that has to happen. So it, I hope it doesn't get to that, but that's worst case scenario if people are being belligerent or yeah, it's
Bill.
Having run these things in person, Zoom is so much nicer.
Oh, it is going to be so much better. Okay, and then I did not include in the decision application part, the application on Mueller for the event, because we aren't giving input on that. It's okay. So I just want to make sure you knew with that. We can, and we may be bringing up that we will actually be bringing up because of the historic layout one. Okay. Then we'll go into financials, any transportation report from Bill. We'll talk about the holiday tree lighting event, and then any other old or new business from anyone? Oh, Jack.
I was just gonna say, Jessica, behind corresponding secretary, would you also put bouncer?
She is a tough cookie. I like it. Very good. And did I see your hand up, Joe?
Yeah, do you need to bring up anything in regards to that email that you sent out to us about the place right north of the bar?
Okay, say that again.
The house right north of the bar, Rinkus's old place. You sent out an email about that.
Oh, that is, it's not something I would put on a Hamlet agenda. That is a code enforcement complaint.
Right.
And the Musgroves have just felt.
That the one kind of just across the street north from us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And the Musgroves have just felt disconnected from code enforcement. I'm sure they are the first. And so that's why they keep reaching out to our board saying, okay, now what? Okay, now what? And that's, as you saw from their email, they assumed it was going back to the hearings officer, but it wasn't. Hearings officer made their findings. Code enforcement gave him 90 days. They went back, they looked at it. They've done no cleanup. So now it actually goes to the Board of County Commissioners, County Council, to go to the Board of County Commissioners for litigative
Authorization.
process. Right. So that's where it is. And that will take a little longer. And they just see no one. Diane with barista with code enforcement, Michelle, no one communicated again with the Musgroves. So they contacted me and said, have you heard? And I just copied everybody and said, hey, Diane and Michelle, where is this? And they came right back with a thorough explanation. So I wouldn't bring it up because it's really just us guiding them through the code enforcement fog.
Is that something that we might want to provide feedback to the county commissioners on what, if we think that there should or shouldn't be legal action taken? Because that might be a reason to put it on the agenda. Right? We're supposed to advise the Board of County Commissioners. That would seem like a perfect example of something to advise them on.
I don't see, have you ever done that, Bill? But Mark?
So what happened to Terry and the property?
It was sold to a gentleman, I don't have the name, and he was in the construction industry. And what he did was started bringing on massive quantities of heavy equipment and parts of vehicles. There were chemicals being stored in like box trucks. It became a big dumping pit for, and rocks and stones and lumber and broken up concrete, construction piles. It's a mess.
And they were working on trucks too, right? Not just
Yes.
storing, but working on them too.
You are correct, Kenny. And so this started back in early 2020.
Okay.
And it has now been a year and a half in the process.
Okay.
So
I was just wondering.
Yeah, they've met with them. There's been letters. They've gone before hearing officer. They keep giving him deadlines and he doesn't do anything. Why we ultimately got contacted was they started a fire during the wildfire season. And I mean, that they lost it. They're like, this guy has no concern about his neighbors or the community whatsoever. So that's when they called us and said, what do we do? And as soon as we sent an email to the code enforcement officer and the supervisor, we were informed, and then boom, 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 it was back in process. So Kenny, Bill, do you see any thoughts about any concerns? Because we can certainly bring this, and we could certainly write a letter to the Board of County Commissioners.
Well, I think that Kenny's got a very valid point, and because the Musgroves, I think so.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, since they brought it to you to actually brought it to the Hamlet, I think it would be perfectly reasonable for us to explain to the public how this chain of events worked, and that we are now prepared to write a letter to the Board of County Commissioners supporting the code enforcement decision to pursue it. So I think that keeps us on the outside of anything personal. We're not for the Musgroves, or we're not against the people who own the property. We're in favor of the code enforcement's decision. And so I think that we can definitely support the code enforcement's decision and request that the Board of County Commissioners consider this application from the County Council.
I may or may not have assumed that that's the position the board would lean towards. I simply figured providing whatever feedback the Hamlet decided was appropriate at the town hall might well be within our purview, whether that's in favor or not.
Right. Well, I think that personally, I would not want to be in the middle of anything, but I can certainly support the processes of the county that have come to this point where now the county council is being asked for permission to pursue litigation. So I'm all behind the county's decision to pursue litigation.
Okay. What I can do is, I know there is like a history. So let me be ready to present that next week. And then we can ask, I think this would be under kind of our miscellaneous land use topic. And we can prepare a brief summary of this process and find out if we would like to support written communication to the Board of County Commissioner asking for the county to enforce their code.
That's certainly land use activities.
Okay, I would I know the Musgroves would be so happy to hear that. And I will let them all know that that will be our plan to present it next week. So if they would like to attend, which I would hope that they would, that we can do that. Okay, Kenny, that's an excellent suggestion. Thank you. Any other old business or new business? Okay, so the next meeting will be in November, but it's a week early, November 17th. And I'm hoping it'll be on legislative update. Katie promised to get that, and I put in big red capital letters, 1 week early due to holiday. And so on our board agenda, I put in highlighted in yellow, reader board bill, just maybe transportation in county or transportation. Yes, Mark.
Getting the registration on our blog for next week's meeting, is that happening soon?
I have already put up a draft of the a notice that with the current registration stuff. All I was waiting for is the agenda, and we've got that now. Tammy will shoot me over a PDF agenda, and I will put that into the notice, and it'll be up there, and I'll pin it to the top of the blog.
And so, Jessica, here's and that's where you're going to see this highlighted on your agenda. What those, codes are: FB, Facebook, Beavercreek, Oregon Forum. We want to not just place on there our agenda, but we want the agenda on there, but I want two different things. And you can put the agenda on there, right? On the forum. Okay, I thought so. Underneath it, something about, please join us at our town hall meeting. Oh, also reader board elections, Bill. Sorry, I forgot to put elections in there.
Yeah, I think elections are pretty important.
Yeah, and transportation.
Mhm.
So something about, Jessica, very simple, but please join us for guest speaker on transportation, our elections, and land use activity. We don't want to just only point to the one. Then what I'd like to do is go to the two threads that were going on. I think there's just two regarding this, and say there something like, please see the Hamlet announcement on the Beavercreek Oregon Forum with the agenda. And to join the Zoom meeting, go to our website at beavercreek.org and go to the blog. Because some people don't know that when you bring up to go to blog to get the Zoom link and the agenda. So we're going to want to hit Facebook, not just the normal agenda with information, but those two threads to be really super responsive. You can do that? Sweet. Okay, beautiful. Okay, and then, and I think that is everything. If it's everything for you guys, we can adjourn this and we can do a trial video. Okay, any other business for tonight? Okay, we're going to adjourn this meeting at 8:58 p.m. Then you can end recording and